Toastmasters. This morning I'll be talking about how obesity affects the way children walk. Obesity is defined as children who are in the 95th percentile for age and gender. Biomechanics is the study of movement, just a study of human movement. So why does this matter? Back in 2010, they were already noticing a pandemic, and there are a ton of researchers and individuals and us today who are fretting about the problem that was coming up with obesity. AI, and I did not fact check this, but AI shows that 1 in 5 children are considered overweight or obese as of 2019. That is roughly about 15 million children between the ages of 2 and 19. Why is that prevalent? They also show that because rising health concerns, rising health costs, they showed that in 2019, about $1.5 billion were related to health costs of obese children. So when you take something as routine as walking for children and you make that inefficient or something that is hard to do, kids become defeated. They don't want to walk as much, and they are experiencing large amounts of pain. And long-term consequences, they're showing that joint stress injury and the prevalence of something called osteoarthritis at an earlier age when they get to adulthood. So in walking, there are 2 essential phases. One is the stance. That is where the foot is in contact with the ground. There's the swing, where the foot is off the ground, and there's a double stance when both feet are on the ground. The joints that are critical in walking are the hip joint, the knee, and the ankle. And we'll really highlight the knee because the knee is it's a shock absorber. The knee actually is not used for propulsion. That is all coming from the hip and the ankle. And the knee is just the site where kids or adults are seeing that increased osteoarthritis. So we'll look through 3 things. One, in biomechanical research, is the spatial temporal parameters. Okay, is just how the body moves in space. 2, kinetics, which is the ground reaction forces. So for every force that you put into the ground is going to work equally back onto you. And then the kinematics, which is just where the angles, the joint angles for a child or for when they're moving. So in a big lab, and I spent 2 years on this, they would have cameras all around the lab, and we put these little markers, and we analyze at every phase what the joint angles would look like. So spatial temporal, okay, how obesity changes walking patterns. Slower, shorter steps, okay, reduced walking speed, and kids want to spend more time with both feet on the ground. And what we saw, there's not a lot of difference between obesity and geriatric individuals, meaning that they're really just focusing on not trying to fall. Okay? So the body is going to want to be a protecting mechanism where they want to be stable. So extended ground contact, increased time in this double stance, and then altered foot position where they want to take their feet and they want to increase their feeling of support where they're more external rotation at the ankle. Looking at each of the joints, and this is the kinematics. So they also, because they want to be stable, they want to decrease or increase their hip flexion, meaning they want to be lower to the ground. There's reduced hip extension, meaning that they don't push off as fast or as hard, and altered pelvic positioning, which means their hips are rotated forward, can lead to that type of issues. Knee alignment, so even though that their legs and their base is wider, Their knees typically want to cave in, which is increased medial compartment loading, so right through that inside part of the knee, which is the prevalence of that osteoarthritis or that site of osteoarthritis. And then reduced knee flexion, they just walk with a stiffer, so it's a stiffer gait, and then knee slightly in. Ankle and foot, so decreased dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion is responsible for the pushing, okay, during walking. Elevated plantar pressures in the midfoot, meaning they want to be more focused and have more weight, okay, on that whole foot, and so that foot is going to really just collapse to the ground, okay? And then, as we mentioned, compromise push-off efficiencies. When you look at the kinetics, and so how the forces are acting back upon the body, ground reaction forces are increased naturally. If you weigh more, there's more force resulting back. Increased energy cost, so to do the same walking task, there's just going to be more fatigue involved in it. And joint loading. We spent a lot of time looking at this one, and these stats, these are all AI generated. I have no idea if they're actually accurate, but we spent a lot of time looking at something called joint reaction forces and how the knee would actually work to compensate, and it's always in that opposite direction. Okay, so if the knee is in here, okay, there's going to be a rotational force acting back on it. So why? Musculoskeletal contributors. So reduced relative strength. So for body weight, the strength is not adequate or not as likely to be able to support their body mass. Increased fatigue, meaning that to complete the same task, there's going to be more fatigue involved. Compromised balance, that is what the main reason of what they want to, or the body's going to protect. Okay, so decreased. They want that wider stance. Postural sway is going to be more, so they're going to be that feeling of not being as stable, but they're going to work to try to stay balanced. And then limited flexibility, just as we talked about, more rigid in their walking. So what are the cascading consequences? And this is one thing that could be a take-home, is when you think about there's a lot of research on the physiological aspects, meaning the heart, the lungs, and all those pieces. There's a lot on the psychological aspects of obesity and being able to change, but then the biomechanical also come in, and it ends up being this big circle, meaning that walking is challenging, it's painful, okay? So the mind is going to say, hey, let's stay away from that, okay? So exercise, increased exercise and those types of things, okay, are going to challenge the mind, and until they can get out of that, or until we can get them out of that circle as professionals, there's going to be that challenge, and they're going to avoid activity as much as possible. And so moving forward together, okay, so environmental support, it's going to take the psychological, okay, it's going to be interdisciplinary, it's going to take nutritionists, it's going to take all hands on deck, from mechanics to also the physiological side,